Hey guys, welcome back. It's good to see you. It's good to be with such wonderful people. And if by chance this has reached the little grays out in the far reaches of outer space, it's good to be with you too. I've got something cool to teach you guys today, something about the time wave, or what I'll call the time flower. Stay tuned. So the closer we get to no time or to the time wave zero, then the closer we are to potentially the end of things or to the end of time itself, to where we're living in a time period where there is no time to period itself with. So, found some bones. For the past several nights, I've been conversing with Terence McKenna. And I would like to say that these were just dreams, but maybe they were, maybe they weren't. I felt like I was standing in a room with Terence, and one of the nights I felt like Dennis was there, his brother. And Dennis is still alive, so that's pretty weird. But I'm going to put a slideshow at the beginning of this video. Sorry, that was some nefarious rock climbing I had to do there. Whew! Just came through the brush. And moving forward. So, something I found really odd. Quick interjection. I'm about to get this completely wrong in the video, so I wanted to go ahead and talk about it real quick. Okay? So Terence McKenna was born December 16th, 1946. Okay? Alan Watts died December 16th, 1973. That's what I'm about to say, or what I'm about to mean, but I say it wrong. Is that, maybe not odd is not the right word, but Alan Watts, his death date, Alan Watts' birth date is the same day as Terence McKenna's death date. And I will add that here for you to see, but I thought it was fascinating and synchronistic. And I had, in this, let's call it a meeting that I had with Mr. McKenna, he was explaining to me that he had continued his work on the time wave from beyond the grave, and that he was going to try to help me understand the whole thing, and he failed tremendously because I do not understand it whatsoever at this point, and I'm constantly working on it. Last night I started doing tons of math, trying to figure out everything. Basically what I started out with was a 64 million year time cycle. Each section of the time cycle, or each time cycle itself, is broken up into a ring of time periods. And in this case, it started out that there are 32 time periods, each consisting of 2 million years. So this was the base of my equations, my starting point, I guess you could say. So if the Earth were, say, started at this 64 million year point, each of those being 2 million years, then the next ring, the next age, doesn't start until you multiply the 64 million by 32%, and that, I have no idea where that cut off, guys. I hope I didn't get too far. I'll repeat myself, but so basically the time wave consists, not even a wave these days, but the time calculation, I started with 64 million years. Each time period is one petal of the flower, and that's 2 million years. So there are 32 petals on the outside of what I'm going to call my time flower. So 32 petals each consisting of 2 million years. Now back then, time moved a lot more slowly. The frequency of time and the frequency of events was much more slow. Less was happening. There weren't as many events close together, and there was less life. So that's one entire time cycle, is the 64 million years. Well, next, if you take 64 million and you multiply it by 0.32, then you get how many years the next time cycle would be. I'll have to put the numbers up because there are just so many digits. I'm not going to be able to remember it from here at work. But hang on a sec. Is that better? So then you get the next. And what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to chart the petals. So if you imagine a flower with a circle at the center, that's a complete circle, is time everlasting, time wave zero, time that exists and does not exist simultaneously. Well, if you can imagine the way that the flower of life looks, you've got major petals on the outside, that's my 2 million. But where they come and connect, the next set is going to be not as long, so it's going to be, 3/4 of the way up the 2 million, or less than that because it's 0.32 is the multiplication. But so it's going to intersect now, instead of just the 2 points where each petal intersected at 64 million. And by the way, wherever the petals intersect is where we can predict something of a similar resonance would happen. So it's a way to predict major events. So as we progress forward through time at our 32%, the rate and the interconnecting points is going to be higher and more frequent. So more events are going to happen that are similar. So anytime it intersects with the original 64 million year time petal will be a similar event to the original 64 million year event. But anytime it intersects with the new 32% of 64 million years, it will only be an event that's in concordance with that percentage's time cycle. If this makes any sense, at all. But anytime the new 32% intersects with one of the old 64 million year points, and I'll graph this for you as best I can, then something from the original time cycle is likely and most definitely going to occur. So then you take that next time cycle and multiply it again by 32%, you get the next one, so on and so forth, until eventually the numbers come down to 10 decimal point zeros with an 11, and then 11 decimal point zeros with a 3, and then 12 decimal points to the 0. So the closer we get to no time or to the time wave 0, then the closer we are to potentially the end of things, or to the end of time itself, to where we're living in a time period where there is no time to period itself with. So, I guess if you think about it and you read Revelations in the Bible, we're going to get to the second earth, they say there. This could be prophecy of a similar thing when time itself is irrelevant, no longer occurring because the time wave has worked itself to 0. Now, the math is extremely complicated. I have no knowledge of graphing. I have no ability to put this on a graph mathematically. So this is where I may need some assistance some point in the near future. Someone can take my calculations and graph them. Now, another weird thing that started to happen is in the decimal points, I started noticing through my math, this is just my 32% math, that dates were appearing in the decimals. And the dates were significant, like 1776, Declaration of Independence, or 1358, when the throne in Japan was handed over to a different emperor. And many things related to independence and shifts of power have happened in concordance with each other. So it's either high coincidence or something about this entire thing is working. Now, Terence and I may not have a chance to work together again. I'm not sure. If Dennis ever wants to contact me, I'd be more than happy to go over some things with him and see if I'm just having delusions of grandeur and wild imaginings at night while I sleep. But I'd like to think that these particular suestros are very beneficial to this planet in understanding that as our vibration raises, more and more and more events are going to start happening. The novelty events are becoming more frequent, more likely, and as time progresses, events will happen faster and faster and faster and more cyclical. Whoa. So, as we approach time wave 0, we can expect things to get a little bit more dicey. Or what worries me is when my calculation got to the 3, the Trinity. I have no idea what year we're in, what age we're in now. That's the most complicated part about trying to figure out the math. Well, guys, I just want to say there's a path right here that I didn't take. And I feel awfully dumb. But I'm glad I got to take you guys in an adventure through the woods. And I'm going to post some diagrams in this video. I'm going to post some math in this video. I'm going to try and explain what my time petals look like and what the whole flower of life looks like, but I can't get an accurate diagram of it at this point with my current capabilities. But if anybody wants to help out, I'd be more than happy to share this with you. Bye-bye.
All right, I'm here in command headquarters in the cockpit of my airplane. Actually, it's just a truck, but I wanted to add something that just because I started with 64 million as my base does not mean that that was 64 million years ago. In my calculations, I had to start with something, and Terence told me to start with 64 million. Now, what that means is if the first ring is 64 million, that's 64 million years. Then the next ring, I forget the number, 32 million, then the next one. So you got to add those all together. So it's, 100 million at least years that I'm using in this calculation. And that doesn't mean anything because it can be much further back than that. Time is quantitative, and I don't know how far back to set my calculations, and I don't want to be doing it indefinitely. So I created a base. I just want you to understand that. So, all right, here comes my math. Take a look at it, pause it, go over it, tell me what I did wrong, tell me what I did right. Help me. That's what I want. I want help. I want people to work on this with me, and God, I want to meet Dennis McKenna.